Okay, so hello Rollo, how are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you.
Cool.
Thank you for having me today.
Yeah. So I'd like to start with the new album. I was reading yesterday, you said that the idea of movement was the cornerstone that brought the record together. Where does that idea come from?
I think, well, we were just, at the time it came that we realised that we kind of were about to write this album. We've been doing a lot of touring, so it was kind of the natural, it just kind of felt like the natural thing. We'd spent a lot of time in the car, listening to a lot of driving music, kind of understanding what kind of music you want to listen to when you start your journey, what you want to listen to kind of mid-journey, and how it kind of, how the music kind of dictates the different moods of the journey. So it just felt kind of, at the time, we didn't really have a kind of direction yet, and we hadn't done much writing. And suddenly, as soon as we thought, oh, why don't we just take the obvious thing, which is kind of what we've been spending all our time doing, that idea of travelling and journey and spending time on the road, and it just, since then, since that moment, just all the songs kind of came together, and it all just felt pretty right and seemed to make sense.
So, and then would you say that Ride, the new single, would be like a good example of what the album is?
Yeah, definitely, and it's also part of the reason it's kind of the first track of the album. It definitely kind of sums up the feeling that we're going for, so it seemed right as the kind of initial track to kind of get things going. Right.
And now, now that you were talking about this whole being traveling thing, I feel that the guitars and the record, they do have that vibe, like very trippy, very ethereal. And I was wondering while I was listening to the record if you have any influences from those dream pop bands, like shoegaze bands.
Yeah, well, yeah, funny enough, in one of our first ever reviews we were referred to as a shoegaze band. And I don't think really any of us knew what shoegaze was, even though we were kind of telling other people that we were a shoegaze band. Influences-wise, I think all of our influences are pretty subconscious. We listen to, like, between us, a lot of different types of music, and I don't think we've ever specifically listened to a band and said, oh, let's kind of make something like that, let's use the guitar tones from that, and it all just kind of happened naturally. A kind of big part of, I think, that dreamy sound is the delay. So me and Jack have now both got delay pedals, which kind of, a lot of triplety delay as well, which just kind of layers the guitars over each other and just kind of forms this more dreamy sound. But I think that's always been there. I don't think we've ever really had a band that we've, yeah, kind of aspired to sound like, just bands that we've liked, and maybe that's kind of come through in the music.
Yeah. What bands were you listening to while you were recording the record?
Well, yeah, just bands with, there's a lot of kind of bands we started to listen to that had a very drivey element to them, kind of War on Drugs, Future Islands, bands like that, that especially kind of drum-wise just had a really driving feel in them. But other bands we listened to at the time of the album, I can't really think, who else were we listening to? Big Grizzly Bear fans. But yeah, I'd say those that Future Islands and the War on Drugs was definitely part of that whole kind of specific driving thing, because listening to them on the road, it really did seem to add an energy to driving, that kind of sound, and especially those kind of rhythms, I think, yeah.
So the whole album is kind of a music-wise, it matches the lyrics somehow, or even the title tracks, because so the album is called Feels Like Air, and then you have a song called Ride, Horizon, We Can Go Anywhere. Yeah. So it's all about movement somehow.
And yeah, kind of after we thought of this, after we kind of come up with this idea that drove the whole writing process of the driving, it kind of inspired lyrically for all the songs to be kind of written in the point of view of one journey and one passenger kind of daydreaming along the way. So all the different songs could just be a kind of another fleeting thought during that journey. And there's a song called Interlude, which is kind of written in the point of view of being asleep, so it's kind of falling asleep. And the song after, Horizon, is kind of the waking up from that dream. So it provided a really nice platform to be able to kind of lyrically treat it as one body of work rather than individual songs, which is really fun.
Okay, now that you're talking about lyrics, I noticed that the word die of death is a theme, at least in 2 songs of the record.
The first, well, I think the first 2 songs we put out as well had that. I don't know, maybe die just rhymes with a lot of things, but I wouldn't say I was kind of obsessed with the idea of death, but it seems to have ended up being a theme within those songs. There's probably some more die in the album as well, isn't there?
I'd say so.
Yeah, just a lot of death on my mind, probably.
Does that come from any personal experience?
No, I think it's just completely random. My dog died last year, but I doubt it was that. That was a joke. No, I think just kind of, well, there's a song, the next single that's going to come out after Ride is also kind of inspired by this kind of irrational fear I have whenever I'm asleep in a car. I feel like we're going to crash. But that's actually a song that doesn't contain the word die, so maybe there's just a little bit of death in them all, which is a bit kind of strange. But it was never purposeful, all the death. I think it just came out like that. But it did get mentioned by our radio plugger that it's not that radio friendly to have a lot of death in the lyrics, but went with it anyway.
All right. So now you are releasing your first record in April. So do you feel, and you've been like touring and releasing music for the last 3 years. So do you feel any pressure now that the first full album is coming out?
I think, yeah, there's probably always a bit of pressure with putting out the first full record, but then I guess there's kind of pressure in everything. So putting out your first album, I probably see it as there's a bit less pressure, because the second album you've got that pressure to kind of, if people like the first one, be as good as that, and then because it's your first album, I think that it stands alone in a way, so I'd say there is definitely pressure, but probably the whole kind of second and third album thing is where the real pressure kicks in. But I think as well, as a band, in terms of pressure to actually write and pressure that we get, all right, we need an album delivered by that time, I think we're quite good under pressure. It switches us on a bit, and I think we just work a bit better with a bit of pressure.
So now, still talking about this process, this evolution process. So how has your music evolved from the first EP to this record that's coming out? What has changed and what has not?
I'd say that we've just kind of naturally, I think our equipment has led to kind of a natural involvement. Kind of when we started off, we each had kind of one tuning pedal and that was it. And as we're kind of discovering these reverb pedals and delay pedals that kind of seem to suit the sound that was already there, I think it's probably just moving closer and closer to what our kind of sound was always meant to be like, I think. But I don't think there's been a kind of attempt to, is that my phone? I don't think there's been like a, can you hear that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Just click the volume thing. Sorry. Shall I just answer that again? What was the question again?
It was how your music has evolved from the first EP to the
I think
full
yeah,
record.
it's all just quite a natural natural progression. Just kind of, especially when you are able to make an album, you're able to explore your own sound more. Kind of, you can make, for example, kind of 7.5-minute songs. You can chuck in an acoustic song and really just delve deeper into the sound that's already there. But I wouldn't say that we've consciously tried to kind of change the sound at all. But maybe the driving element has given subconsciously a bit of a direction towards that.
Okay. And this fascination with driving, is it personal?
I can't drive, so Yeah, so it's not very personal. It's just kind of, I think that fascination with driving was just, it was so of that time. Like, we just spent so much of the month before on the road, and it was such a, the album all came together, and like, I think we wrote it all around a kind of month or two, so it just felt very present, felt very honest to be able to kind of focus on something that we're all kind of experiencing at the time.
Yes, it's a bit of a reflection of what you were living in that moment.
Exactly, yeah, and I think that's important, and that's probably, I don't think it was the driving specifically that once we figured out that was going to be our kind of theme. It wasn't the fact that it was driving, it was the fact that it just felt natural, it felt honest, so I think that's why we were able to kind of churn a lot of songs out.
All right. Now I'd like to dive back into your past a bit. So, can you tell me when exactly did you decide to form a band? How was this process?
Well, we were all kind of in different bands. Like I'd been in a band with Jack before. I'd been in one with Wolf. Before I met Toby, when we met Toby, the other guy, the other two were in a band with Toby. I was in a band with a guy called George. It was basically just like a big kind of collection of bands that we eventually came together as a bit of a joke, and then it just kind of, yeah, we just kind of came together to mess around, and then realised that it did just kind of fit together, and it just felt right, so we kind of went from there. And yeah, just started working on, I think we initially worked on a song that, what was the first song? Was it Land of Sky and Ocean? Yeah, but anyway, so we kind of met as it started off as a bit of a joke, and then all came together, and then we just kind of take it more seriously, and it just felt right.
Yeah. This was in 2014. 15.
That was, yeah, apparently. I'm not very good with dates or stats or anything.
And once you had started the band, did you have like a goal? Oh, I want to achieve this or that, or was it just more fun?
Yeah, I think we've always wanted to achieve. I think we're always looking at you're always looking one step up at that next thing you want to achieve, and then once you achieve that thing, you don't kind of really care about that achievement anymore. Then you're thinking about the next step. But I don't think we've got certain milestones that would be amazing to achieve, but I think we're always just kind of looking to the next step and kind of taking it step by step.
Can you give which milestone would be amazing to achieve?
It'd be amazing to play at Glastonbury. It'd be amazing to go on Jules Holland, just those kind of things. So those are real kind of big ones for the future, but we never really talk or think about that. We're always kind of looking just one step ahead, I'd say.
Yeah. And where do you want to be by the end of 2018?
Ooh. Just kind of, I think it's the touring that we really enjoy, so chances to go to other countries, visit America and tour Europe as much as possible. We just do love being in Europe and playing for European crowds because they're so respectful, especially in Holland and Germany. And it's the thing we enjoy most. So just any kind of chance to head back on the road and visit new countries, I think that's a big aim.
Yeah. Now that you've just mentioned Holland, I was seeing on your Instagram or the band's Instagram account, there was this picture where you said, "Oh, we are playing in Amsterdam tonight." This was when you were playing at Sugar Factory last year.
Yeah.
And then there is a caption, "Oh, Amsterdam is our second home."
Yeah.
Why so?
Well, we've just always loved coming here. Toby spent a lot of time here. I think at one point we even considered moving out here, but Jack wouldn't have it. It's also the first place we ever played outside of England, which might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure when we played London Calling at Paradiso, I think that was our first ever gig outside of England, so it made it pretty special. And to play at Paradiso in the main room was pretty special.
All right. So that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Perfect. Cheers.